world. So we want to make sure that we spread that light, let that light, and make sure our door is open to anyone. So getting that UCI license kind of legitimizes kind of what we're doing on a pro level. And now we have, you know, pro American black riders that are back into that level of racing again. So we'll see how it goes. It's really exciting. It's something that I wasn't expecting. You know, like for me, it was more about, you know, really staying focused on growing a different type of event that could basically not challenge, but could be next to a different avenue for guys that didn't want to go over to Europe or couldn't make it in Europe. And that's what we started, but everything evolves, and I'm really happy and proud to have that UCI license and to be recognized as a global cycling body.
That's fantastic. So are you going to focus strictly with your new team? Maybe you can give us some of the names of the riders as well, but will you focus strictly on crit racing, or will you do some road racing as well, or will you even go into cyclocross or even mountain biking?
Well, we do a little bit of everything. We just like to win. So it's about having fun and winning whatever we enter into. Anything we throw guys into, we'll make sure that they have the proper support to not only have fun, but to give it their best. So we have Lance Haydick, who's an under 23 cross rider. He did pretty well. I think he was 4th in the last championship we had. He's really good. He's going to do some cross stuff, some gravel stuff. And then we have a bunch of really good road riders that want to come over, and there's some road races here that suit, some stage races here that suit us, like Joe Martin. There's Joe Martin. There's a couple of other ones. We got into the UCI race that's happening in Baltimore last year, but it was going to be this like circus to try to figure out how to get a domestic elite team in. So getting the new license makes that easier. We're looking at the Tour of Britain. That would be amazing to come over. There's a massive, Black community there that we want to. I was talking to Cav the other day, and he was saying how the neighborhood that the track is in, the neighborhoods that are surrounding it are of people of color, and he would love to help in introducing them to a track that's basically lives in their neighborhood that they may or may not know exists. So come over, doing Tour of Britain.
That would really cause a lot of enthusiasm in the UK, and I think the track you might be thinking of, maybe the Herne Hill Velodrome in London. Does that ring a bell? Because that is. Go on.
I've raced not in the track, but outside of the track. Funny enough, when we were doing stuff with Alec Briggs, who's my guy, when I come. But I think that's the one he's talking about.
Yeah, that's the one, and that's the track where Maurice.
That's the one I started from. Yeah,
that's the track you started from, isn't it, Maurice? That's your old hunting.
Yes, 50 years ago, Marlon. 50 years ago.
And
in fact, I sent a birthday wishes to one of the coaches. He was 80 years old today. Bob Addy. He's in Australia now. He was in the Holsworth professional team, and he was one of the coaches at Herne Hill when I started racing 50 years ago. And I always remember he always used to shout at us, keep your hands on the bottom of the handlebars. But that was 50 years ago. It was when I started at Herne Hill. And I always remember the coach, the first one, Bill Dodds. He said to us, what inspired me was, he said before the first time we went there, we weren't allowed to ride that day. We had to listen to the coach, and he said, from here you can go to the Olympic Games. And that was all. That's all I needed to know, because I knew that I had some talent, but I didn't know how to move forward with that talent, And that's what started me off. Yeah.
Yeah. And you did go on to win 3 national championships as part of you started off with the Velo Club of London, the VCL, and you won the junior national championships, and then you were able to go and race for England at the Commonwealth Games in '74.
What happened with that, Marlon, was that the coach at the time, was a man called Norman Shield, and Norman was a previous world pursuit champion, and he took a liking to me from the first time he saw me. His eyes looked like they popped out of his head. I went to Leicester, and he saw that there was something there, and I won the junior sprint, and so by default he said whoever won that junior sprint was going to be was going to go to the Commonwealth Games. And so that's what happened. Unfortunately, by the time the games came around, Norman departed from British cycling and went off to Canada. And so the new people who took over, they didn't quite like me in the same way that Norman did. And to be honest with you, as far as my memory serves me, I don't think I ever represented England or Great Britain again. From the age I was selected, I was 17 years old when I was selected, and I was 18 by the time I went there. But, so the second British Championship that I won was actually after the Commonwealth Games, and what I did to win that championship was I beat the gold and silver medalists from the Commonwealth Games to win the British title. And so, yeah, what can I say? It's I wasn't altogether too bad.
You weren't too bad at all. I think there's a similarity in Justin's early track cycling pursuits, because didn't you clean up a little bit when you were a junior as well, Justin?
I was doing a lot of criteriums and road stuff when I was a junior. I did about a year and a half of road racing before I got on the track. And then when I got on the track, my first two events was just the California State Championship and then the National Championship. So I was kind of thrown in the fire. But I got good at it pretty quickly. It was the same kind of deal. I think that the structure that USA Cycling is here was really interesting because, when I was 16, I think I won like 15 Cat 3 races. And I remember, they were sending out newsletters about kids getting like top 5 in Cat 3 races. And I was just like very confused on why these newsletters were going out about guys that were getting podiums when I was winning those races.
Yeah.
So I was for sure. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be on the national team for sure. I'm winning all these races. They obviously noticed them because they're sending out stuff about it. And 17 is the first year you can get on that team and wear that jersey. So I thought it was for sure gonna happen, and nothing happened. Like I was very confused. Like nothing happened. I ended up having to reach out, and I had to reach out. And as a kid, not everyone's gonna know this. And most kids shouldn't have to know this. If you're developing talent and you're looking for talent throughout the best of the best throughout the country, there should be people scouting for those riders, and it just wasn't a thing. So yeah, same kind of story. I got on the track team because I won nationals, and that was the first contact that I had with the national team after winning. And then, I wanted to do road and track, and they were only interested in me doing the track.
Yeah.
And it just, I felt like I had talent in sprinting and road sprinting and navigating finishes, and I wanted to, win a lot of the classics and sprint on the Champs-Elysees and so on and so forth. And they kind of just killed that dream and made me and say, you're a track rider, do track. And then there was the same thing. There was a coach that was there that, I got into Madison stuff and started slowly switching over to endurance on the track and doing pursuit and stuff. He set me up. He set me up to basically go race in Europe on the national team to basically get beat on so that I could get stronger and I could get mentally tougher, get into that headspace of those longer races, holding power for longer and all that stuff. And same, he went somewhere else. I think he went to Australia. And then after that, I never had contact with the national team after that.
Yeah, it seems to me that relationship that is, struck with a coach, or, that engagement that you have with a national coach can really influence the trajectory, the route that you take as a cyclist, as to whether you're going to go down that route of representing your country or whether you're going to be sidelined. And I've certainly found out quite a lot through my research that there is a big influence of that national coach in determining your career path as a cyclist, which is really interesting. And I see that you mentioned going to Europe, because one thing that I found out through my research and looking into your stories is that you both went over to Europe at the age of 19, around that, and you you're a young black athlete cyclist feeling the force of your power, and you go there. I mean, what the hell are you doing? I mean, leaving your family and going to Europe. And I mean, what did your parents think? Maurice, what did your dad think?
Well, Marlon, to be honest with you, what happened was, it's a funny thing, but the guy my shop that I've got now, Diverse Cycles, the man's name was Peter Burlestone. He was an Australian, and he called it Diverse. And now, before he had that shop, he came to Europe. His aspirations were to become a professional six-day rider. He was a few years older than me, maybe 3 years older than me, I don't know. Anyway, I heard he was going to Belgium, so I said to him, I said, can I come with you? The reason I went there in the first place is because I had an invite to go and ride in Trinidad and Barbados in 1975. And it was February and March 1975. And so I knew that I needed to have I needed to be in shape for these races, especially owing to the fact that when I went in December 74 to collect my trophy for winning the national championships, the people there, the officials, were taken aback by the fact that I was going to Trinidad and Barbados, and their words to me were, well, we didn't select you, so you can't wear a Great Britain jersey. Yeah. And so, of course, bearing in mind I'd just turned 19, and this is what they told me. And so I thought, well, you know what, I'm going to make sure I do well when I go out there. So I knew I needed to have some kind of shape, be in shape to go out there. And so when this guy was telling me he was going to Belgium, I said, you know what, I'm coming with you. And what it was, Marlon, I had 2 weeks holiday from work. I was an apprentice electrician. I just started, I'd been left school, and I'd been 1 year as an apprentice electrician. And at that point, I knew that I was pretty good in England, but whether I could cut it in Belgium was another story. And so I thought to myself, I've got 2 weeks holiday. I've got to find out if I'm good, I'm going to be a pro rider. If I'm not good, I'm going to be an electrician. And I didn't go. Well, there comes a point in life where you got to make a decision, because you can't be doing both. You can't be doing both. You see, you're either going to be one thing, or if you're going to be an electrician, that's fine. You take cycling as a hobby. On the other hand, if you want to be a professional rider, then that's it. It's got to be 100%. And I went to Belgium, and it's a funny thing, but the person in charge of the velodrome in Ghent, his name was Oscar Damas, and that man, again, he took a liking to me. Yeah. And in fact, to the point where the last race I rode in February, before the end of the winter season, there was 2 races for amateurs that day. And he said to me, you know what, Maurice, he said, I'm going to give you a cadeau. A cadeau is a gift, is a present in French, cadeau. So what he did, he put all the good riders in one race and put everyone else in the other race with me. And he said, so that I couldn't lose the race. So that was the encouragement he gave me to come back next winter to ride in the amateur 6-day. And so that's how it all started for me in Belgium. It was a positive thing. It was definitely a positive thing, and I felt the crowd and the people there seemed to appreciate me, which was a difference from me when I won that national championship, the second one, and I held up those flowers. There were people in the crowd who were booing, which didn't affect me too much, but all the same, I felt in Belgium that there was more. I was more appreciated, put it that way.
Yeah. And Justin, your time in Belgium, a different era, of course, but are there any sort of learning points, or any, what were 2 highs and what, and one learning point that you could take away from your experiences racing on the continent?
Yeah, no, it was just really hard. I just remember every race being hard. I remember being in a race that started so fast that it was circuits, right? So it started so fast that I was sure like they were gonna slow down the next lap. I was like, just make it one more lap. They're gonna slow down. Just make it one more lap. They're gonna slow down. And it slowed down for like 10 minutes with like, maybe 20K to go.
Yeah,
And that was the break I got. It just really opened my eyes.
yeah,
Belgium and racing, they really opened my eyes. It was different. I was from LA and I was a pretty shy kid because, we grew up having to be very careful about what was going on, just because of the environment that we're in. So I was really shy. I wasn't very social. Like coming over and being an American was like really different. And it was already like in my head, I was like, everyone knows you're American. So like there's these these things that like they're already expecting. And it was funny because like, people would come up to me and like complain to me about teammates. And I'd be like, dude, like I don't know what you want from me. I guess I'm not the one that's screaming back. So they were like, maybe this one's reasonable. But
I was just
yeah,
I was just going to ask you as well. I mean, about your parents' impressions. Maurice. What did your dad say about you going over there? And Justin,
Well,
what were your parents' thoughts about you as this young going
well,
over there, leaving home and going to the
Marlon,
continent?
my parents, Marlon, I have to let you know that. I mean, when I won that second national championship, I don't think my parents had actually seen me ride a bike at that point. I
No.
know, I know that it was on television, and a good friend of mine phoned up my parents to let them know their son was on the television. And I don't know, to this day, I don't know if my dad ever saw it, because I know he was a fan of the wrestling, and the wrestling was on the other channel. So I don't really know, but you know what? I just looked at my parents and I just said, Mom, Dad, I'm going to Belgium now, and that's kind of, they said, okay, and I went. They didn't really, they didn't understand really. It was only when I turned pro, I got a picture somewhere of my dad and my brother. They were in the Ghent 6 day on the start line with me, there, and they were well received, and then all of a
Yeah,
sudden they must have thought, wow, what the hell is going on here,
yeah, yeah. Great. How about you,
my
Justin?
parents are there. I mean, my dad, raced and he would go
Yeah,
back and forth from Belize. He would race in Mexico. So he had an understanding of it. But yeah, they would have rather me been in almost any place than where we lived. So they were super excited for me to kind of get up and get out of get out of the area. So they were just excited. They were super supportive, as much as supportive as they could be. My dad never raced on a pro level, so he couldn't tell me what to expect, or he couldn't kind of equip me with some information that I needed to make the most of it. But yeah, they were like, if you're gonna do the same thing that Maurice said, it was like, if you're gonna do it, if you're gonna be pro, then you got to go. This is gonna be a part of your life,
yeah,
or it's gonna be a hobby. So you go and you figure out if it's what you want to do.
yeah. And did they come over to the continent to watch you race or support you in any way, Justin? Like
No,
Maurice's?
that was like one of the hardest parts. Is like my family being so far away. I had no one.
Yeah,
I literally was by myself. And that was going to be the life because my parents weren't going to leave LA. I have two younger brothers, and all of my family's in California. So they weren't going to leave. They weren't going to come over. We didn't have the money for them to come over and like get a place and like come support me. So it was definitely something that I was on my own with.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just a ferry over from Dover for Maurice, I guess, in that respect. Let's look at some questions in the chat that some people have asked as we move through this webinar. One from Ken Harris. He says, my question to everyone, what do you think are the biggest obstacles in raising awareness of cycling to a more diverse audience and increasing diversity in professional cycling? And what do you think we can all do in order to help facilitate this? Quite a big question there. Shall we tackle that one? What do you think the biggest obstacles are in raising awareness of cycling to a more diverse audience?
I think
Okay, Marlon, I would say, sorry to, in my opinion, I would say they need role models. You know, they need people. The community, the ethnic communities need to be able to associate with people who are winning races. So that's the way. That's what it would be, you know. And then if they see that and they look at them and they say, well, look, he's doing it. I could do this.
Exactly.
That's my opinion anyway.
I
So
think that's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's about seeing someone that is doing something in a way that you would aspire to do it, right? We talked about that earlier with guys having kind of mental lapses and breakdown on the upper level of things, and you're like, oh man, like what are you showing them? Like what are they getting excited about when you watch someone score a goal, or you watch someone a touchdown pass, and you see the lifestyle that they live, and then the like glory that person embodies. Like it's hard to find that in cycling. So it's like, how do we get people to want to do this if there's nothing inspiring them to want to do it? So like,
Yeah.
I think Justin, you're making a good start. You're making a good start with the team there. And what you said earlier about the Tour of Britain, I mean, that
would be magnificent.
That would be wonderful if you could make it over to the UK, you know, and you would have quite a few supporters, I'm sure, you know, in that respect.
It would be amazing. I love coming over. I love London. It's one of my favorite places. So, and I understand the culture that's there. So I think it's important. I think it's important to come over. Like I know it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure to be the one that have to go get results and understand what it means to like us as a people. But it's something that's necessary. Like I'm grateful to be able to like carry that. And hopefully to continue to perform, to make sure that, like you said, we have someone that people can look at and go, oh, well, this guy's doing it. Like me and Corey, like Corey's doing it, or I'm doing it. Like I can do it. You know, they look like me, they act like me, they talk like me. You know what I mean? They dress like me. All of those things matter. It's the whole representation matters. Like if you don't see someone that looks like you doing it, that carries themselves like you doing it, why would you even think that you couldn't think that it's possible, because it's not even there to like aspire to.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a question from Mark Brown for you, Justin. Will Legion consider a youth development opportunity? I don't know whether you have that already going on in Los Angeles, but is that something that you might want to develop more internationally? A Legion youth development opportunity?
Yeah, it's something that we're right now we're creating a foundation. It's been really hard for me being the athlete and also trying to develop the platform to develop other people like me. We're working on it, but it's extremely hard because most of the time I'm juggling trying to focus on being better every day so I can continue to get the results, with also like managing a team, maintaining inventory and all this other stuff. But yeah, we have a plan to at least start to identify, and like we talked about earlier, having that opportunities with like day camp. We want to do junior day camps where we can put a group of kids together and go, okay, like let's see how good these kids are, and then like as we see guys kind of stand out, then we'll create opportunities for them with like that could be funds or grants to do like national championships or big races. There's a big Tour of Labitibi that we want to put a composite team together for, so on and so forth. So
that sounds great.
The youth.
It sounds great, and it's something that I've actually spoken to Maurice about, the possibility of the Maurice Burton scholarship in the future. Who knows, of potentially working with the cycling industry, corporate companies, to establish something that can bring some equity to younger people from the inner cities, young Black people from the inner cities, to support them into the sport with coaching, with equipment. Is that something that we could, that could be developed in the future, Maurice? What do you think?
Yeah, it could be done. I mean, with the right backing. I mean, yeah, I'd love to do it. I've been trying over the years to, with my little club team that I've got with the team Team Divert, you know, from the bike shop, and we've tried to help. I mean, my son was one of them, and other people, you know, women and all young people. We've helped them, along with the assistance from the import of Colnago from Windwave. You know, we've supplied them with bikes, with Colnago bikes, and you know, they've a lot of them have done well and moved on. I mean, not all of these were from ethnic backgrounds, you know, but all the same, you know, we've helped regardless of their background. If they have the talent, you know, then we've been happy to try and help them. I mean, Ethan Hayter and his brother Leo, you know, Ethan is with Linios. I mean, he started through, you know, with help with us from Colnago. You know, he's a customer of ours in the bike shop, you know, and we're very proud of him and where he's going. And I mean, I helped my son, you know, with the same thing. He didn't get any special gifts. Yeah, I told him, you know, you got to win a national championship before you can ride a carbon bike, you know.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, you know, I think, yeah, I'd love to do it, you know, but you know, obviously, you know, I would need backing if I'm going to do something like that.
And I think it could be done. I think it could be done, and you still, I know through Diverse Cycles, still help out with lots of young champions in the community. You've mentioned Ethan Hayter and his brother Leo, and they ride really well for Great Britain. And Abby Dentis was another one of your products as well. So it's not just for black children, but for white kids as well. That's the way to do it. And talking about role models in cycling, this guy here, Gregory Borges, just retired a week or so ago. What were your impressions of his career? Justin, did you ever get to race or meet Greg Borges?
Yeah, it was. I have one of his jerseys, one of his French long sleeves. I think one of the World Cups were in the Carson Velodrome in LA, in California, and I got introduced to him by my coach at the time. He was super nice dude. I think I traded him for like a Kobe jersey for like one of his French jerseys, because I wasn't on the national team yet, but I wanted to give him something that was important to me that represented like where I was from, and it was really cool, man. Like obviously he was French, but he looked like me, and it was cool because like I want to be like this guy, and that's when track was massive in my life at that point too. So it was really cool getting to just have that experience as a kid. I think I might have been 15 or 16 at the time when I met him, and it had a massive impact just meeting him. His jersey was huge, but like just meeting him was incredible. So
yeah, he's a phenomenal athlete, and I think what I liked about Gregory Borges' period in his prime was the fact that he was racing against Chris Hoy, Jason Kenny, and I think by being the rival of those British cyclists, they just helped to raise the bar further and further for each other. It made track cycling so much attractive for me to watch and for me to be involved in as well when I was racing as well. Maurice, have you thoughts on Gregory Borges and his career and his recent retirement? Did you watch him?
He was after my time, Marlon, and to be honest with you, obviously I knew about him, but the coverage that we had in the UK of to the average young person in the UK, if you mentioned his name, they wouldn't know who he was or anything about him. It wasn't something that was that was pushed, if you see what I mean.
I was thinking too when he retired. I went to go look for pictures of him to post just to pay my respects, and like it was really hard to find like good quality photos. Like that story wasn't told.
Yeah, this is it. This is the thing, I mean, there is people out there, but if you don't dig, you don't know about these people, and that's the That's part of the problem, you know. And I mean, if you, because you need, I mean, a youngster, say at school, could look at him and say, yeah, you know, I could do that, you know, I want to do that, you know. But if they don't see it and they don't know about it, then you know, that's what they need, you know.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, the fact about Gregory Borges is that he actually got into the sport as a cyclocross racer and won quite a few races as a cyclocross racer before he found track cycling. So that shows you how versatile he was. But no, you're right. I mean, there was a 110-year gap between Gregory Borges becoming the world sprint champion to this man, Major Taylor. Major Taylor won his world sprint championship in 1899, and Borges won his first individual sprint in 2009. And yeah, I guess, you know, with the USA and Great Britain, where it comes to producing quality black athletes, USA and Great Britain can do that in track and field. We do it in boxing. We've produced many world champions in boxing between us who are pretty much of the same physique as people like Borges. I think Taylor was a bit more slighter. But what are the issues as to why the USA and GB have done nothing to go looking for this talent? What do you think, Maurice? Why?
Sorry, why Britain and the USA haven't gone looking? I mean, I don't think. Well, you got to look at especially Major Taylor. Were they looking for him or he found them? I think he found them. I think it's a bit probably the same. Probably the same with Justin and with me. They didn't look for me. I found them. You see, that's the difference. You know, I mean, I knew. You know what? From the time I got on a bike, pretty much from the first to the second day I rode a bike, I knew. And the matter of fact, all it was that how do I get from being where I am to where I want to go? You see, and I think Major Taylor was them guys. He knew it. He knew he could do it. He just didn't know how to. You know, and that's what he got there. But
yeah.
You know, it's a different. It's different from some people who will look at that and look at and say, yeah, you know, I want to do that. That's why there hasn't been anyone and they put up these barriers. You know, there's barriers there, and you know, some people will either bypass, go around these barriers, or climb over the barrier. But some people, they see the barrier and they turn around and go the other way, and that's it. And the majority, and that's what happens. See?
Yeah. So I think what you're saying, Maurice, is it comes down to attitude. And one of our listeners, Wayne Blythe, says that about you. A question from Maurice: you may not have had a role model you could associate with when you started racing, but what made you want to get into cycling and continue to do so with all the barriers you came up against?
Okay,
you started because you loved cycling, like we all do.
Marlon, there's a little bit more. There's a little bit more to it than that, Marlon. The truth is that you know, before I got into cycling, I don't think there was anything at school. We were never encouraged at school, and it was as if I didn't feel that I was outstanding at anything. And yet, the moment I got on a bike, I found, you know what, boy, oh boy, I can do this. I can be, you know, there was nobody can, and you know what, when you're a young guy, and at school, you know, I mean, I used to be good at technical drawing. I was good at this type of thing, you know, engineering, and yet, you know, all they could point me in the direction for was the cigarette factory, you know, and I mean. You know, I felt, you know what, I just, you know, when I realized I could ride a bike like that, you know, I thought, you know what, there can be a lot more to life than for me than just working in a cigarette factory. And you see, it was to me, it was a way out. It was a way to move forward, and that was always the incentive that I had, and from the beginning, I remember my dad's, I remember 1969, Eddie Merckx won the Tour de France, and they used to show about 10 minutes of it on the World of Sport. And I watched it and I said to my dad, I said, Dad, you see that man? I want to be like him. My
Yeah.
dad turned to me, he said, you know, if you want to be like him, you have to eat steak every day. And from that point, I said to my mum, I want steak every day.
Yeah, brilliant
But,
story.
that was I mean, I didn't have, there wasn't any black role model. At that point, I didn't know about Major Taylor. I first learned about Major Taylor in about 1972 when I
Yeah.
was 16 years old. But before that, I didn't know about any of these people, but I just looked at riders like Merckx,
Yeah.
especially him initially. And then the first magazine I ever bought was it showed Patrick Surcouf, who was
Yeah.
world sprint champion, 6-day rider, and 5 years later, there I was racing with this guy. You see,
Yeah.
so that was the incentive. That was what drove me. You know, it was that I could have a better life, really, Marlon. That's what did it for me.
That's good. I guess it's the question as to whether it's intrinsic motivation. It comes from you as a person to want to get into cycling, or whether that motivation can be triggered extrinsically through role models. I mean, Justin, does Major Taylor still have a massive significance in inspiring Black people to get into cycling in the USA? I mean, there's been Major Taylor, there's been Nelson Vales, there's been Rashan Bahati. I know that Gideon Massey did a bit of sprinting. That's still not a lot of Black athletes. What does it take for the USA to improve or increase diversity in cycling?
Yeah, I think it just goes back to having people that kids can look up to. I learned about Major Taylor because I was on Major Motion's junior team,
Sure.
which that's another way that we're going to try to attack the issue of like giving more opportunities to kids. Like I raced for a Major Motion development team, and while we didn't have the best equipment, there was some stuff that was passed around. You know what I mean? And we want to bring that back. We want to bring that team back because, yeah, my first stop in cycling when I think most people learn how to ride a bike, and I knew I wanted to ride bikes because it was a one day. I played football and basketball, and someone was always stronger, someone was always faster. It was always a battle. But when I raced bikes and when I would ride bikes around, I was always faster than most people. So I was like, this is the thing that I'm like, oh man, like I'm usually there's like a battle or like I'm always looking for ways to be better than people, but like on the bike, I'm just better than them. So that I started falling in love with going fast from there, and then like starting to learn the history of like my dad and him racing and my uncles racing and all that other stuff. And I was like, okay, there's something here. This is not knowing anything about the tour. I knew nothing about the tour until I was maybe like 14, 15.
Sure.
But when I first started, the club that was support that had a lot of the Black community, because it's pretty small, was the Major Motion Cycling Club, Major Taylor, named after Major Taylor. So yeah, he was a hero for mine from the beginning, and as far as Rasan goes, I got lucky because Rasan acted more as an older brother to me than like a role model, or like he's always an older brother and mentor. So I looked at him completely different, even though he was winning like a lot of the biggest races in the country. So yeah, I had a unique experience there. And then from there, I just it was again me chasing my own ambition of like, oh man, like Peru-Bay looks incredible. Being the world champion, like what does it mean to be the world champion? Like, when you play football in the NFL, you win the championship, you become the Super Bowl, you become the world champion, but it's not an international field, or it's like a slight international field.
Yeah.
But then so having that knowledge and then looking at cycling and being like, oh no, like this is actually like country versus country. And that I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. Going back to that, I think with the heroes, like telling these stories, I know that like I think Heineken did a story on Major Taylor with like a recent one. I think telling the stories, but also having those as reference while also going back and like having people that are currently doing it is like what we're like get kids and get people kind of stoked and inspired on bike racing.
Yeah, it's important to share the history of Black excellence in cycling, from Major Taylor through to people like Nelson Vales, even John Moulding, South African road racer, to people like Maurice, people like yourself. And if those sorts of resources are out there as books, magazines, on social media, then that might be one way in which young Black people, young Asian people, people of color may want to come into the sport. But yeah, it seems as though that your particular socialization and condition, because you had that legacy of Major Taylor being part of Major Motion, because you had Roshan Bahati as well, that seemed to give you a nice sort of advantage and a sense of belonging to the sport as well, and by the very fact that that your father and your uncles are in the sport as well. Brilliant. I just
We want to do that, right? We want to continue that. That's why we
yeah.
do Q&As. That's why we try to do as much as we can, because
Yeah.
having access is important, and we want to grant that access. So we're going to take steps in making that happen.
Yeah, you're making it real and true for the next generation. You're passing on the baton and the legacy. I just there's going to be a time for one more question, but before I do that, I just want to talk about a webinar, the next webinar that I'm going to be conducting as part of this series, and that's going to be called Powerful Young Women. It doesn't come out very well on this slide, but I'm going to be speaking with Marie Kwame, French junior world champion for the 500 meters, with Charlotte Cole-Hussein, a double British champion on the track, with Rihanna Paris-Smith, an aspirant sprinter riding for Team Terminator, and with Danny Khan, a double junior world champion, talking about their experiences in the sport of cycling and how we can aim to inspire younger Black women, younger Asian women, younger women of color to come into the sport and to enjoy it. So that's going to be set for the 7th of February from 7 to 8 o'clock. I'm looking forward to that particular webinar. Let me just come back onto the screen, just like that, and ask one more question to both of you with regards to the future. Justin being based in Los Angeles and with the 2028 Olympics planned for that city. I know we've still got to go through Tokyo, of course, whether it's going to happen or not, and we've got Paris to go. But 7 years of planning for the Los Angeles Olympics. How do you think you could be involved in the development of cycling for that particular Olympics? And how do you think Black-led grassroots organizations could become more involved in that party in 2028?
I think it's a massive opportunity, right? It's a really cool opportunity. That's something that I work with the nonprofit Outride, and Rasan has the Bahati Foundation. Those are massive opportunities to go talk to kids and get them excited on it. It's far enough away that if you get a kid, you catch a kid in like the beginning of high school, like they could like, maybe be in that game. It's enough time to develop a rider to do it. So I think that it's something to rally around and get excited about and use not only what we're doing with Legion, but also dreams of who doesn't want to be an Olympian, right? I know in Australia they go to their track sprinters and say, hey, man, you're never going to beat Usain Bolt, but you might be able to be world champion on the track. And I think that's something that we should maybe take and go, hey man, like maybe the NFL is not going to happen for you. We have an incredible amount of athletes here, and just maybe putting that on their door and creating programs where they can come in and at least try. Maybe you get 2%, that group that falls in love with the sport, but that could be significant, and one of those kids could change the future forever.
Absolutely. And have you any plans as to where the track may be being built or what the route may be? Route maybe for the road race.
I daydream about it for the road race and for the track. I think they're going to do another track. I'm not sure. We have a track, but I think they're going to do another one because our track is a little bit slow and everybody complains about it. But the road race course, man, there's endless possibilities. You could do whatever you want. You take it up the coast and then do a downtown circuit. You could take it into like Griffith Park. I think there's like talks about it being in Long Beach because Tour California was in Long Beach. But I mean, the possibilities are endless. And California is massive, man. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
and LA County is massive. So we'll see. I would love to be involved. I don't know what the plans are. I think it's a little bit, still a little bit of a ways out. But it's going to be really cool. I was riding through actually the old Olympic Village the other day, and it was like, it blew my mind that it was like in the middle of downtown. You're like close to Hollywood, and there's this massive like apartment structure that they're apartments now, but yeah, that was a village, and it was really cool to kind of like have that experience and understand that it's coming back. So I think there's a lot of motivation there. And I think that, if there's a lot of people that can use that
yeah.
to kind of help, motivate someone to take that step, it'd be awesome.
Yeah, it'd be awesome if the national body, USAC, could work with some of the local groups local black groups in Los Angeles to sort of really inspire young black people to get involved in cycling, because that's quite a long period to sort of work with in order to maybe put one of those guys on the number one of the podium for a gold medal. And in the UK, Maurice, we're set to host the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham 2022, and we have the World Cycling Championships in 2023 in Glasgow. In your mind, is there anything that you see that maybe you could do to help as an ambassador, or whether any black-led organisations over here in the UK could work with British cycling to improve interest from diverse groups?
To be honest with you, Marlon, I would more go along with what Justin is saying, and that you need to go to the schools, high schools. I mean, and identify and help identify athletes for now for 2028, because I mean, unless there is athletes who are already breaking through now, then you can't just grab somebody out of nowhere. I mean, well, you can, but it's the possibilities are very small. Whereas if you look for 2028 and you start from now, then I would say yes, that is a solid possibility. But you have to start from now, and along with the lines of what Justin was saying. I've always said this. I mean, you have to go to the schools, and there might be some who are good athletes, but maybe not quite there in say football or something like that. And there's been a lot of, I think even Eddie Merckx played football at one stage, and he moved to cycling, and so you could say, okay, then maybe you're not going to make it with Manchester United, but hey, why don't you try riding the bike? Yeah, and it might only be 2%, but then, yeah, there's a good possibility. I think that's the way forward. I think so.
Yeah. So 7 years, 2028 is something that we hope to see more, a broader range of faces doing cycling at the Olympic Games, not just from.
I would hope so. I would hope so, Marlon. I would hope so. I mean, as you mentioned the Commonwealth Games, but that's just around the corner, and I mean, unless they're already there winning national championships now, then I can't see how that's going to work, But I think you've got to look to 2028 is a more, I think I would hope that by then, it means that the federation, the British, anyway, from the British point of view, it would mean that the British cycling would have to want this to work. If they want it to work, it can happen. It can happen. I'm happy to help in what way I can, but it's got to be down to them if they want it to work.
Yeah,
I also think that, and like there needs to be a lot of listening, right? Because in the way, if you want to make it work with athletes from different cultures, doing it in a way that works for one culture is not going to work. That's where I found a lot of difficulty in like wanting to be a part of a lot of the things that go on in cycling. Is that like it just doesn't feel like you belong, and it's not your culture, and it wasn't. You just don't. It's hard to get attached and feel welcomed into something like that. So I think that there needs to be a lot of listening and growing within
Yeah.
these generations,
Understanding. Yeah.
and understanding, because as you're bringing these different kids in, these different cultures, you don't know what their background is. You can't expect them to just come in and do whatever you want without listening to them. The psychology of what it is to be an athlete is extremely important, and there's more of a light being shined on it now. But I think that that's where that's what's going to make or break if these kids and these new people that come into the sport are successful or aren't.
Yeah. So it's, let me try and sum up some of this. It's about having a greater presence of ethnic diversity in cycling, so that when children or new young athletes come into the sport, they can see themselves reflected in that community, at a board level, at coaching level, even at race level through commissaires being of colour as well. And I guess for people of colour to come into the sport, it can be an intrinsic motivation, but how can we also inspire people to come in through role models that are out there, through advertising, through the media? There's so much to think about in order to make the sport much more appealing to people of colour, to Black people, to Asian people. I'm going to stop now. I'm going to say thank you very much for your time this evening. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been a privilege and a pleasure being with you today. I wish you all the best with your endeavours with Legion of Los Angeles for the next few years. Justin, is fantastic. Maurice, thank you for being with us this evening and sharing some of the excellent stories from your career as well. I wish you all the best. I hope you're going to be safe during this COVID pandemic, and I hope to see you in action as soon as possible. So thank you very much for joining me in this webinar. Maurice Burton and Justin Williams, thank you very much.